Hello everyone, Shinto Bean here doing another faction focused video. This time we'll be looking at the Space Marines, who have the largest roster of cards by far. You can see I have 73 cards in my collection, and that's not even all of them. There's still a number of cards that I haven't unlocked. Scrolling through here, you'll see that I have not upgraded a lot of these cards, and that's because a lot of them are quite similar in stats and also play the same role as each other, so they're quite interchangeable. Obviously too many cards here to talk about each individual one, so I'll just try to keep it brief and focus on the better cards in my collection. But let's start off talking about the Warlords. 4 different Warlords to choose from, and on the right here we have the most popular one, Brother Lieutenant Tolmaran. He is your ranged man. Has a very powerful special rule. It has been nerfed several times, but if you want to deal massive amounts of range damage, this is the guy to go with. He's still pretty fun to use, I think. Next to him, we got Watch Captain Artemis. This guy was actually for a long time one of the weakest warlords in the game. His special rule does direct damage to enemies, and it's percentage based. They did buff it a couple times, so he's a lot stronger than he used to be. But he does struggle against certain decks with like large amounts of bodyguards. So pretty fun to use, but I haven't gotten much luck with him in the higher tiers of ranked mode. Next we have Captain Acheron. This guy is the first warlord you start off with in the game, and he's also the most boring one. His special rule just buffs his health, as I'm sure you know, and yeah, unfortunately his attack is just not very strong. He can end up with a huge amount of health, making him very tough to kill, but he doesn't deal enough damage for that to be very impactful. And then finally, fourth of all, we have Grandmaster Voldus, the most expensive warlord of the lot, and he buffs his Psychers whenever you play a Space Marine card. He does have very powerful stats, but yeah, it's very limited what types of bodyguards. Obviously, you just want to put Psychers into your deck, so yeah, I don't really see this guy a whole lot in ranked. I did play as him a little bit before, but not so much recently. Moving on to the bodyguards, here at the top we have the most expensive ones, mostly dreadnoughts and such. This is the most expensive one, the Redemptor Dreadnought. Pretty cool looking card there, but not very good. I've barely used this at all, and yeah, it's just not that great for its cost. Next to that, a more recent addition to the Space Marines, we have several aircraft, including this Storm Talon gunship. This thing is just pure firepower and works very well with Lieutenant Tolmaran. It's quite a bit of fun to use. I don't have it at the highest level though, so I'm hoping to level it up a few more times before I can start using it more. Next up we have the Nemesis Dread-Knight. This is a powerful, all-around powerful card, but I haven't really used it very much. Its cost is pretty prohibitive, and I don't know, I prefer to just have something that's really good at one thing rather than okay at a few different things. So I haven't really used this guy very much. And I'll skip some of these ones that aren't as that I don't use as much. Brother Garros was for a long time very much one of the most powerful Space Marine cards, I think. Even though he's common, very powerful ranged I want to say dreadnought, but yeah, warsuit, whatever. It did get nerfed a number of times though, so now there are better options. Because I have it at the highest level though, it's still the best option for me with Brother or Lieutenant Tolmaran. This though, if you are a newer player, I think is a very good option as well. The Salamander's Dreadnought. It has a lot of firepower, and it can, when upgraded, it can gain a lot of melee as well. Pretty good all-around card there. And this is one of the most fun cards to use, the Death Company Dreadnought. Insanely powerful melee warrior with Berserk, so it can gain a whole lot of extra attack, both ranged and melee, as long as you can keep it alive. So very fun card to use here at Cast Order of the Damned. let's see, moving on, we got Marnius Calgar here who, I don't know, this guy, he's legendary, but kind of difficult to use. He's very expensive and not exactly the best stats there. Inspiring Presence is useful, but yeah, I haven't really used him very much. There's actually quite a few alternatives up here. The Minotaur's Chapter Master, this guy is actually pretty good. He has an impressive amount of damage. I was really wanting to use him now that I've got him to level 5 with all that ranged attack, but around the same time they came out with the Berserker trait for this guy, so I've been using him instead when I want to go melee. Let's see, we have 2 legendary psychers here. This dude, the Rune Priest, and yeah, he's pretty powerful, but not a whole lot of health, so he doesn't really survive very long. I think Tigurius is the better option of the 2. He's very powerful psychic damage, and the shield allows him to survive for a longer time. So if you want to use, if you had to choose one psyker out of all of the Space Marines, I'd definitely go with this guy. If you have him leveled up to 2 at least. Space Marines do have quite a few legendary cards. This guy got a buff recently. He's not really that good. I don't see him used very much. Moving down the line, this is not a very noteworthy card, but just an example of one of some of the new Primaris cards that they released a while back. I think you might have had to pay actual money for them. So, yeah, I don't have them at very high levels. They're not really that great. I'm kind of a collector, so I like, you know, getting new stuff, as long as it's not too expensive. And, you know, I got a number of melee heavy cards around here, and a few psychers. Another legendary here, the Raven Guard Chapter Master. This guy also got a pretty significant buff recently, so, and for some reason I've gotten more copies of this guy than like any other legendary in the game. So many copies of him, and he's not even that good. I really haven't used him. He just doesn't have like a really good place in any deck that I've used. If I can get one more copy, then maybe I'll throw him in somewhere. I don't know. Some mediocre cards around here. This Centurion is also one of the more powerful ranged units that I like using with Lieutenant Tolmaron. It did get nerfed, becoming a little more expensive recently, but with the shield, it does have a lot of survivability and quite a bit of damage there. Moving down the line, a number of different cards. I mean, I don't know, if you want to use these just based on, you know, what they look like, or if you just want to change things up, then that's fine, but yeah, I don't know. Some of these are just kind of mediocre. This Aggressor, if you have it at a high level, it is pretty decent in a ranged deck, I think. I could talk about some of the ranged units, the best ranged units. My personal favorites are these Hellblasters. Brother Gorgon here. Blood Angels. This guy has really good stats for a very reasonable cost. This other Hellblaster is also quite similar in stats, very powerful. Definitely good to use him in a ranged deck. This guy I see quite often, the Reaver Lieutenant, the Fear. That used to be actually a pretty widely used strategy. I think that was before Fear went through the rework though. You still see this guy a little bit though. He's got pretty decent melee damage there. The Apothecary sometimes I'll use just because Medicae is a really nice trait if you have big units in your deck. And down the line, this guy has actually become quite useful thanks to his Inspiring Presence. At only 13 points, he's quite cheap. You can put him in pretty much any deck and he will buff up your other Space Marines by a decent amount. And let's see, what else do we have down here? Quite a few Marines. We got Space Marines. We got Terminators. This was one of the first Terminators I have. I have so many copies of this, but yeah, after a while I just stopped using it. I never really used it much to begin with. That guy and this guy were like two of my first cards that I had in my collection. Don't really use them anymore though. And yeah, just a number of Marines down here. The cheapest Marine, this guy used to be like 10 points or something, but they put him down to 5. Very cheap for a Space Marine card and pretty useful with that Scout trait if you have a ranged deck. But yeah, that's the Space Marine collection for you. I'm skipped over quite a few of these units, but I tried to hit the major ones that I use. Again, myself, I've used Lieutenant Tolmaran more than any other Space Marine hero, so I think he's still pretty strong and quite fun to use. If I go with Watch Captain Artemis, though, I like to use the Death Company Dreadnought. Go with a kind of a mix of units, though. I usually put in a few Hellblasters, those ranged units, as well as the Death Company Dreadnought, and Tigurius also. Just sort of a hybrid deck there. It's pretty fun to use ranks in ranked mode with Watch Captain Artemis. But yeah, that's the Space Marines for you. If you have any questions about specific cards or whatnot, feel free to ask in the comments. Or if you disagree with anything I said or have anything you'd like to add, yeah, let me know. But as always, thanks for watching, and I will see you next time.